If time stops at a black hole, there is no information that needs to be destroyed because it was an illusion the whole time. When the spinner is spinning, you can observe information about it. The way light reflects off of it, the velocity that it's spinning, the rotations per minute. There are emergent properties that arise. But if it stops, suddenly those emergent properties are all gone. So if anything falls into a black hole, there is no information that's destroyed. It just stops. In a way, a black hole is kind of like a gravity eater. It doesn't suck in matter so much as it dissolves the emergence that arises from physics. So when a black hole evaporates, there is no information left because there was never any that entered it to begin with. The information didn't get destroyed. It vanished. Black holes say more about quantum properties and the way physics emerges into what's the word? I forget the term. Larger realities. And yeah, that's my interpretation anyway. I mean, if physics is emergent anyway, then what does that say about a black hole? Just logically. The function of a black hole. I think it's incorrect to decide that a black hole destroys information. Maybe from our perspective, because we are emergent. We aren't, as a person, an individual, me, Ryan Horton, I am not a quark, I'm not a neutrino. Neutrinos pass through me, I think, pretty sure. And so in a very real sense, I am the emergence of physical interactions building on top of each other from scale to scale. Quarks, atoms, quarks, particles, whatever, I don't know, the protons, electrons, particles, atoms, molecules, all the way up into who I am, what I am. So if I were to fall into a black hole, It's not that I would be destroyed. Being destroyed is incorrect to think about. I'm not even sure if spaghettification is perfectly accurate either. Maybe on a physical term, but what's really happening is, and it's actually interesting. It's actually very interesting because the way we describe a person entering a black hole, especially from an outside observation, is they would slow down and then redshift out of uh, view. It's actually very similar to the way other emergent properties in physics behaves. You can observe this right now. The way the RPM is so fast that as it slows down, the emergent properties either appear to speed up or slow down. One emergent property in particular is this halo of blue reflection, because it's spinning so fast that the light can be reflected at every point within our grasp of observation. We aren't viewing time with 10,000 frames per second or whatever. I don't know exactly, but so we see every point of light possible being reflected off of the spinner as it spins. But as it slows down, so does the the frame rate decays, I suppose is what you would call it, until you get just the physical properties of the spinner itself. It's very similar to the way redshift works, especially in terms of entering a black hole. So what would happen to me is everything that makes me up, if I fell into a black hole, everything that makes me up slows down in time until all of my emergent properties decay into whatever the last thing that you would see of me would be. And then I suppose I would fall in. I actually don't quite know beyond that point what would happen other than just stopping in time. But I don't think anything would be destroyed. Maybe physically, if there is some ultimate um, place to end up in a black hole where I would eventually collide with, then perhaps I would die on impact. But in terms of just free falling with nowhere to go, nothing would happen to me. I would just be still in space. There is one theory I find interesting where I forget the term, I forget the name of it, but I guess it's the holographic principle. I might be wrong, but what it suggests is the black hole is a 2D surface, and all of the information is encoded onto it on the surface. Um, but I don't even think that's necessary to explain this, actually. Because if time stops, then all that you need is this. You don't need it to spin anymore. I'm not sure why it would disappear out of view. Other than the only thing that would make sense to me is that it became I can't think of a better term other than overshadowed by other light, which is in front of the object that fell in. But yeah, I don't think a black hole destroys, like in its nature of it being a black hole. I don't think the black hole destroys information. I think it decays the emergent properties that come about from the physics of whatever object is falling in. And in terms of just the tidal forces of gravity, spaghettification makes sense. But even Neil Tyson says that it can be, well, really, it happens more so towards the center. On the near the, I don't know all my fancy terms in physics, but spaghettification isn't that drastic until you get closer to the singularity. Um, and the larger a black hole is, the longer it would take to experience any sort of elongation. I think before any of that would happen, time would slow you down so that your emergent properties no longer are coherent in a physical form. I think if you want to create a wormhole, that's actually a pretty good place to start, is finding a way to perhaps preserve that information while entering into a hyperspace. So perhaps finding a way to artificially induce time upon arrival of a significant force of gravity. Significant, what's a good word? Presence of gravity. I don't know. But those are my thoughts, anyways. Later.